Okay, this is going to be called Revenge of the Meatspace. Giant puppets in the age of AI. But it's also what I want to do first is just do a big set of acknowledging, like, what we're doing here and where our context is. So I teach a spin class about a block away. It's at Pivot Lifestyles and Fitness. And one of the first things we do is we sort of bring our awareness and our intention into the room. So we're going to do a big deep breath in through our nose and then out through our mouth. Ah, that's good. Let's just acknowledge that we're 4 days deep into a music festival. It's 4 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm the headliner of Hackfort. This is the last talk of the entire tech conference. So, and you guys came to a talk about puppets during this time. So let's just acknowledge that, acknowledge each other. Thank you very much for coming down here. I think it would be appropriate to thank some people first because there's a bunch of just work that went into this. So thanks you to Jump for hosting this whole event, as well as Yoga Fort upstairs. Thanks Dan Beyer for being the program director of the entire shenanigan. Hackfort director Raymond Kramer, who just ducked out of the room just in time for us to acknowledge him. Treefort Music Fest, thanks for producing something pretty cool over the last couple of years. I feel like, oh dear, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, see, this is what I was talking about. How do I scroll amongst my, oh no, this could be the death of me. I don't know how to scroll touch screens, folks. We're going to be just fine. Thanks for putting on a pretty cool event and for keeping so much integrity in the event in Treefort over the last many years, despite a lot of challenges that Treefort's faced, a lot of the growth that they faced, and a lot of the growth of Boise itself. I think there's so much just consistency and integrity that I see in Treefort. And so I'm really proud to be a part of this crazy venture that they call Treefort. And with that, what I want to do is loosen up. We've got some music during a presentation, which I don't feel like I've never done that before. First thing I want to do is ask you guys in one word, describe how your brain is feeling right now and just blurt it out to me. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and you're just going to give me one word to describe it. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Next, I want to see a show of hands. Who's been to a Hackfort talk this year? Ooh, okay. Who is here at their first Hackfort talk? Yeah. Next, I want you to raise your hand if you've lost your voice at some point over the last 4 days, or even close. Do we want to, how are your voices doing now? Compared to, yeah, great, good, okay. Next, I want you to find someone next to you who you didn't come here with, and then exchange with that person something that unexpectedly delighted you this week, if you have an example. If you don't, it's okay, you can just say, nothing. But turn around either in front or behind, and then what was something that you found that kind of gave you unexpected surprise, delight, joy, anything. And it doesn't have to be directly next to, but trade off with the person that you're next to or switch to somebody else and just give a quick little exchange of Okay, now I want you to turn to someone new altogether. And I want you to exchange something that made you feel something, like a strong emotion. What was it? And try to name the emotions that you felt. You don't need to go too deep. We're not trying to therapize here. I just want to try to identify what was something that you saw or witnessed or heard that made you feel something. And then try to exchange that with the person next to you. What did you see, and what emotions did that thing trigger? All right. Thank you guys for just kind of like loosening up and just kind of like breaking that little bit of barrier and just kind of bringing your presence into the room a little bit. I appreciate it tremendously. Let's talk about some puppets. Here's what I'm going to do over the next, 30 minutes or so. I'm going to talk about a bunch of the things that we did, the Colossal Collective did over the last year. I'm going to do some serious ranting, and then I'm going to take some questions. The ranting is going to be interspersed throughout, so that's going to come and go. So for those who don't know, my name's Sam Johnson. I'm part of the Colossal Collective, which is a group of artists and engineers and creative people who build these large-scale puppets and take them to events. And then last year was a big year for us. We covered a lot of ground. 2025, we did a whole bunch. And so our year kind of starts with this creature, which this was a proposal that I made to Jump in late 2024. They used to have a program called their Artist Residency Program, and my pitch was, hey, look, we'll build an actual mammoth, not an AI-generated mammoth. And sort of my whole point there was that we are going to build this actual creature that exists in the real Meatspace as opposed to the AI-generated, I spent about 5 minutes telling the prompt to make this creature, and it spits it out. But there's a difference between the AI-generated thing and then the thing you can touch and feel. We'll talk about where that might go in the future in just a second. But this was some of the wording that I used. Greetings, we're in the early phases of building a large-scale woolly mammoth puppet. This fabulous creature will engage the audience in a wide variety of ways, which I'll enumerate below. Remember, when it comes to giant puppets, size matters considerably, and this puppet will be absolutely enormous. Look at this ridiculous AI-generated image of a giant woolly mammoth puppet in front of a shiny glass building. Don't you want that, or something similar, stomping around Jump, only real? And then I also mentioned that I would like to deliver a lecture, which was part of the requirements for the Artist Residency Program, was that I had to deliver a little lecture about the art that we were making in their space. So I said, I want to deliver a lecture about the importance of puppets in today's society. Puppets are truly interactive art pieces. The kind of which that allows the viewer to interact with another human consciousness, which is typically the puppeteer on the other end of the controls, instead of merely reacting to the viewer, which, despite being a mere simulacrum of that interaction, is commonly found in tech-integrated dross that plagues the art world of late. I'll definitely need to impersonate a good friend, Dan Beyer, the program's director here at Jump, for this as thoroughly as possible, which is a considerable amount. Blah, 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 blah. We applied. We got accepted. We started moving into the skip building, which I think you can even see down below. Started drawing a bunch, started building a bunch, started prototyping a bunch. Started making all these like weird, cool chunks of puppet and testing things out. We had a bunch of theories about how it would work, and some of those theories proved correct. Some of them were terrible failures. We built 3 different scales of model as sort of pathfinders towards our full-size version. We built a tiny desktop version, like about that tall. And then we built a 50%, this was half-scale version, and that led us to our sort of full-size version. We had about 3 months to build it, and during this time, you can just imagine my dreams started becoming obsessed with mammoths, dominated by tusks and trunks and ears and wool. And then the final product, which if you've been down to the Treefort main stage area, looks something like this. We got this giant, silly, goofy, woolly mammoth that stomps around the main stage area. A lot of gratitude to Jump for supporting that project and for giving us the space and then a little bit of the money that it took to build that creature. Now I need to talk about this bullshit. So back in the 40s and 50s, everybody smoked cigarettes, right? See, back in the day, Big Tobacco had this playbook, and it wasn't about selling the dried leaves. It was about engineering of consent. And that's Edward Bernays' term, not mine. Just look it up. They didn't want you just to smoke. They wanted to change the culture so that not smoking would feel weird. It's wild how much damn pressure we were under from the cigarette companies to minimize what the public knew and to confuse us with bullshit claims like your doctor recommends this brand of cigarette. And also to get real creative about how to get us hooked on their product and to get hooked at a young age. Just think about how much societal infrastructure we had in support of smoking. Does anybody remember ashtrays on plane seats? Yeah. How about smoking sections and non-smoking sections in restaurants or hotel rooms they'd say smoking or non? These companies also lobbied hard to make sure that our ability to regulate cigarettes was sort of stymied at every turn. Do you guys remember Joe freaking Camel? What a cool guy. Boy, he'd have fun at Treefort. I'd chat him up in the line. This character was first created in 1971, and he wasn't Americanized and marketed to sell cigarettes to kids until 1988. And that's when this cartoon dromedary, Joe Camel, swept across our culture, making camels seem cool and fun and attractive to kids. It wasn't until 1991 that the American Medical Association found that 6-year-olds recognized Joe Camel nearly as easily as Mickey Mouse. They associated the connection between Joe Camel and Mickey Mouse Joe Camel and Camel cigarettes as easily and as commonly as Mickey Mouse and Disney. So we know by this point, this is in the 80s, we knew that cigarettes caused cancer. Joe Camel kept slinging cigs to kids with incredible efficacy for another 6 years. Why? Because the lobbyists were clamped on. Now I'm going to go deep, another layer. You got to remember, I made this whole talk during Treefort, okay? So this is sort of... So those lobbyists were clamped on like those army ants, right? Whose jaws snap shut and continue to clamp down no matter what happens. This is a real phenomenon, by the way, which can be really useful in some circumstances, like if you're looking for a way to close a wound, and you're in the Amazon rainforest and all you've got nearby is a nest full of army ants, but you can grab an army ant, you can point its jaws at the wound and it'll snap shut and let those massive hooked mandibles sink their jaws into your skin and it'll pull the wound shut. And then, and this is the gross part, you have to pay attention, you twist the body off and it leaves the head sitting there clamped shut, closing your wound. That's really useful in some circumstances, like if you're bleeding out in the Amazon rainforest. But it's a lot less great in the hands of those corporate lobbyists in DC. The industry might die and the public might turn on the concept, but the lobbying apparatus is so hard to pry once its own jaws snap shut. Oh no, my image. No! Imagine an image of someone staring at their cell phone, like a teenager just lost in their cell phone under their blankets of their bed. Which brings me to the cell phones. Doesn't it feel like we're seeing the same sort of playbook here? Only worse because it's society-wide and completely unavoidable. The world has been engineered so that we have to pay this attention span tax anytime we want to do anything. So just imagine if in order to check your bank account balance, or to see a photo of your grandkid, or maybe just call your friend on the phone, you had to take a nice long drag off a Camel Turkish Gold. You want to pay your mortgage? You better light up. So here's my point. Haven't we seen enough? We know that it's bad. We know it's devastating our sleep. We know it's shattering our attention spans. We know the algorithms are designed by literal casinos to keep you isolated and depressed and doom scrolling until your thumbs develop arthritis at 42. Where is my thumb brace that I have to wear all the time? We know that our kids are especially vulnerable to it and that their poor developing brains are developing into adulthood with a pretty jaundiced set of social skills. We know we're being manipulated and marketed and persuaded, but we can't leave. We're locked in. Despite what we know, these decapitated army ant jaws aren't letting go, and they won't come off on their own. They're locked on pretty tight, and we're going to have to pry them off. Okay, so that was the first bit of rant. Let's get back to some puppets. We finished Mortimer Maximus, the giant woolly mammoth, and we were this is wild because it happened while we were building him, while we were approaching Treefort. And we got approached by a really cool company who asked us to do a whole lot more. And we were like, should we do a whole lot more? Oh yeah. Meow Wolf is this like wild, really cool, immersive, interactive, massive installation art company. They build these sprawling, they're like jump-sized buildings that sprawl all over the place, and they weave together like 150 art installations into one cohesive story that is immensely rewarding if you like kind of digging into and diving into. So it's like a museum plus a video game with like 40 hours worth of content. So you can't absorb it, you can't solve it all in one visit. And they also do a ton of like narrative-driven, really cool like engagement with the people who are there. They reached out in early March when we were like running down the last couple weeks of our prep to Treefort and said, here's what we need. We need a double-headed worm-slung creature with appendages and wings or skirt features that can give the illusion of flying. We need it to be 15 to 20 feet long and operated by 3 to 5 puppeteers. It must have internal illumination. It has to have the ability to expand with large width and height to be gargantuan in the exhibit. It must be larger than a person and light enough to be lifted much higher than a person and chubby in appearance. You got it all? It also needed to be able to fit through a standard doorway, be shippable in the regular mail, and delivered in 2 fucking months. That's a lot of really tough constraints on your design. We said yes, and it basically meant that while we were still just launching Mortimer Maximus into Treefort, we were also starting to wind up the gears on the design and prototyping, engineering design of this next creature. It meant that our like Treefort was so almost like an anticlimax because we knew we had a bigger project waiting right around the corner. We started designing and engineering. This is an adorable little test. We got kicked out of the skip space. Not kicked out. Our residency ended. And we were like, we needed to move somewhere else. So we moved into my friend Dan Beyer, his garage. This is a picture of his daughter, who's just adorable. I asked permission for this. Great. She's showing an early prototype of the wing flapping mechanism. I'll just let you watch.
Doing great. Keep coming and come into the middle on the carpet. Okay, good. Set it on the ground. Okay, now we're gonna take these and we're gonna go back into these spots. Yes. Can you help get them? So just the first
very
one,
crude construction, but that's what you got to do when you're prototyping. Very fast. Let's
so
make it as simply as possible.
And so on. Yes.
The minimum you need to like show what you're trying to.
In the spot.
Trying to show.
So good at this. All right. Okay. Now we've made it into flapper mode. Now I want you to grab the bottom and try to make it flap.
I figured if I could show that Cece can do it, then probably the puppeteers can do it.
Flappy, good. Oh, it's so good.
We accelerated our process tremendously. I'm gonna skip 2 slides ahead. We went through like this prototype to that prototype to that prototype to a much more finished model in like 2 weeks, and then all these mechanism prints, all these crazy ways of trying to make an ear flapper mechanism.
All right.
Yep. And this is all CNC routed wood.
Pieces. They are going to be in the puppet. So got some handles. Those are looking pretty good. Some heads. Some flapper pullers. These rods have been crimped with our new cable crimper and epoxied into place. This is pretty much a finished assembly. We still have to route out the 3/4 inch piece on the top again, but a lot of this stuff is nearly done.
So like an insane turnaround time for what we normally do, and just so much work. Some just cool imagery of just like coming up with all these fabric tests, coming up with all these like, different versions of it. This is us working in the garage, trying to lay out all these like a 20-foot puppet in like a 25-foot garage. Doesn't leave a lot of room for extra space. And all these really cool heads. I brought some prototypes. This was just like a bunch of quick, rapid versions of these things, but we saved them because they're kind of cool hats, but some just like that one's just a piece, but why not? That one's just different combinations of fabrics and textures, paints. I don't know. We had so many of these things that it got kind of crazy. in a normal puppet, we build it, we take it out to tree fort, we get to like push it around and enjoy it. We get to like see the effects, the like responses, people's faces when we take it out into a crowd for the first time. This was the polar opposite. We built these things, we assembled them fully for the first time, and then we had to build like an hour's worth of instructional like video. Here's how you assemble it, here's how you operate it, here's how you any maintenance tips we had for it. And then that night, we packed it into boxes, and we shipped it. And then it was like this crushing, like, what happened? What had just happened to us? We're used to being like, the next day we take it out into a crowd and we get to like see the smiles on the faces. So it was a very new experience for the Colossal Collective, and it kind of took us for a little bit of an emotional ride. We needed a bit of a break after that. We didn't really want to even see each other, like look each other in the face for a couple of weeks after that. We took a little break, and then I took the whole team down to Denver's Meow Wolf to actually see the performance that it was a part of. And that was a pretty satisfying thing to be able to get to see like our creature that we'd made in this like crazy maximalist just look at every piece of texture. There's a lot of competition. You can't have like a simple creature or else it's just drowned out. So it kind of needed to like compete against the full range of what we were, the environment we were in. A couple videos of just like how it looked and felt. I feel a little bit like, it changed my perception of what I need to do when vetting a project like this. We did not get to go and see the spaces. And so we kind of, once we actually were in the space and saw our creature, we realized that their request was a little bit overambitious. It did not need to be that big, and it was a little too big for the space. It made it hard to move around. So in the future, if we get opportunities like that, I'm gonna make sure I see the space a little better. This is another cool video. You can see all these like crazy costumes that were part of it. It was part of an elaborate, story-driven event that took this whole like flicker worm migration through our dimension, and our creature was the like culminating piece of it. They're shouting worm, 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 flicker worms. So whatever, that was wild to just like happen to us. Yes, it's all people inside there, and there's mechanisms that move the head around and change its angle and do stuff like that, but it's all human puppeteers. Those were hired operators to work the like run of the show. It was like an 8-week long performance series, and then they've moved it. I think it's moved down to Texas. I don't know if they're going to bring it back for the summer, but that was really cool. It's like a wild thing to be a part of, and we don't know what it's going to lead to, but gosh, it was a cool challenge to say yes to. The thing I'll note about this project is that we just built this like wall of other puppets down at the main stage, where we've saved a puppet component from every puppet over the last 14 years that we built. And we didn't even consider making a version of this because it was such a strange, sort of like separated project for us. So the term that Megan described it to me as is like a surrogate. We were surrogate parents to this puppet. We sort of helped it grow and then launched it out, and then it's like, nope, we have no connection to it now. So strange, a lot of growth, a lot of learning. Okay. If the addictive touchscreens weren't bad enough, we're also being completely overrun by the AI. For the most part, this problem's been mostly contained to our phones, but it's gonna spill into the Meatspace pretty soon, and I'm kind of worried about us humans losing touch with our humanity. Puppets, ones that are handmade, that are operated by a human, and that you interact with in physical space, are an incredibly effective foil to the utter insanity of our digital lives. I mean, we make magic, we make meaning, we make connection at every step in this process. Through the process of dreaming them up and designing them, through testing them and prototyping them, and then figuring out how to make them. Through using tools and creativity to build them, and then finally when we bring them to events to interact with people. I know it seems kind of backwards, like, have you lost your ability to empathize with your fellow man? Are you concerned about AI taking over everything? Well, try puppets. That might help. But I know firsthand how brutally challenging it is for young people right now, and how easy it is for them to have no faith in humanity, or to see no reason, let alone desire, to learn skills, to work hard, to connect with people. I also see how quickly a young person can catch fire when working on a collaborative, creative project. Puppets are simple and cheap, and you don't necessarily need high-level skills or materials to make them. You can tell powerful stories and make lasting memories, and they're expressly human. There's a reason why we don't try to make robots. We want the human in the loop. We're trying to have a human-based interaction here when we're having a human puppeteer operate the thing. And I think that that's going to become increasingly important as AI and sort of digital interactions become sort of more and more commonplace and more prevalent in our lives. Okay, so now we're going to go back to we finished all of that. And we got through our sort of Meow Wolf puppet. We spent a couple more months we need to take some time away from each other. And then, seasons change, things happen. All of a sudden, we feel motivated again. And then somebody reaches out to us. Tamarack Resort said, hey, we need help building our parade puppet or our parade float for the upcoming McCall Winter Carnival. They wanted it to be inspired by Charlie, which is this cryptid monster that lives in the lake. And so the prompt was, we needed to make a Charlie-inspired parade float that also seemed like it was from outer space. The whole parade's theme was, where in the world is Charlie? And Tamarack's answer to that was, she's from outer space. So we have this year a cosmically inspired, cosmic-themed Loch Ness Monster creature that's running around Treefort. And because I made this presentation during Treefort, and because I didn't quite finish everything I wanted to, I have no pictures of Charlie to put in here. But the beauty of that is that she will be running around the main stage area, and she lives in a cave, and she's very hard to see. You kind of have to be right at the right time. But she will be coming out and coming around, so I'm not going to show you what she looks like, but that is something that if you go down to the main stage area today and tomorrow, there's a chance that you'll cross paths with our next sort of magical creation. To wrap this up, I'm not saying that building schlocky-looking animal puppets out of fabric and foam is the solution for everyone facing an AI-induced job displacement and/or existential crisis, nor will it overcome the problems that we face from our smartphone-integrated lives. But I know how much they've helped me when I was searching for meaning and value. And I also know that my team finds the work we do really rewarding. I know how much growth it's inspired in my students, and I know how much joy and awe and delight and wonder we've created in the hearts of thousands, maybe even tens or hundreds of thousands of people who we've encountered through our puppets over the years. I think there's a strong case to be made for expanding what we do and sharing what we've learned, for amplifying our signal, and hopefully dramatically. So, if anyone has a giant unused warehouse like down in Garden City or something that we could turn into a workspace, or has a giant hole burning in their pocket and wants to write us a giant check so that we might expand our programming, or simply just wants to talk about the ideas that you've just heard as a result of hearing me rant for an hour, by all means, reach out. With that, any questions? Yep, you first in the front row. Or second to front row. We worked a little bit with, there was a group that tried to create a mini Meow Wolf here in town. It was called the Gem Center for the Arts, and it's a big office building off of Vista. The owner of that place, there was this big old unit within this 4-story office building, and they didn't move out when they did the renovation, and then they moved out a little bit later. And so it was this office building kind of set in the 70s, perfectly to period, this gross orange shag carpet, and everything was locked right in from that era. And we tried to turn that into an immersive, interactive art installation that turned every one of the like offices into a separate installation. We worked on it a ton. It was really cool, but the problem is that the scale and volume you need of people to make a Meow Wolf work is really challenging, and it's really unique, and it's really like, it's possible, but it's also the kind of thing that it doesn't happen by accident, and it's like you can't just sort of go, we'll just have a bunch of artists install work in a place and call it a Meow Wolf, and then there's something really special that they do have that is like, they put so much work into the story and so much work into like the thoughtful space creation that it's hard to replicate. So in terms of trying to recreate that from a business model sense, that's a challenging thing to do. However, I think that there's a ton that we can learn from the fact that people have a desire for that. They want like more depth and complexity and like story behind their art, I think. And so in terms of us actually like taking that on as like our own project, that's a tall sell. However, I could see us being a part of something like that for sure. And maybe growing into the space where we could support something like that. But we've learned a lot from Meow Wolf, like for sure. They operate at a really high level, and their like levels of complexity of organization. It's the first time that we've had separate, like, here's your creative director, here's your project manager, and here's your like business director, and you're reporting to all three. But like ultimately, these are the people that have very clear lanes with which they are operating. So that was great. It was really fun to have the next tier of project design to work with. Marcia, you can go ahead. I was talking with somebody earlier today about dance and about how, you know, it's like the thought of a robot being able to like dance well and conjure emotions through their movement seemed outlandish and ridiculous 5 years ago. And now it's like there are humanoid robots that are getting very close to being able to like do better ballet performance than a professional dancer. And so what it's going to cause is this like massive question across all of society of like, what's the valuable part of the dance? What's the valuable part of watching sports? What's the valuable part of art? I mean, is it simply watching like a human shape kick a ball faster than anybody else or more accurately? Because I guarantee you the robots are going to kick our butts at that. And so we have to ground ourselves in like the meaning and value that comes from the humanity of the act, and the fact that it's a human who's flawed and who has worked their butt off and trained for years and might not be as good as the robot, but there's something in it that's expressly human that is valuable and meaningful. And so I don't know, I feel like the Puppets is goofy and silly, but it's also like there's something in it that I attach to that is connecting to the humanity, the people, the like messy, imperfect. Yeah, I mean, we don't use AI in our like building process. We kind of just like enjoy. I think honestly, the process of building these puppets is so much fun. We used it to pitch it as a kind of joke. We were like saying that I can produce an AI image of what this will look like with a couple minutes on a chatbot. But if you want the real stupid thing stomping around, you know, it's not as polished, it's not as perfect, and it's certainly, but it is definitely real, and it's like the people made it, and it's gonna be able to, you know. No, but I also could see a place in a time where like it's creeping in across all of our lives, you know, it's creeping in across. I mean, I don't know if your email, when you start writing, it starts to suggest like, don't you want to change your phrasing this way? That's AI. It's not that different than saying like, you know, hey, ChatGPT, write my email for me. So it's coming in all forms of our digital world. And then what I'm pretty confident of is that it's coming for our physical world too. And it's like, it's not so prevalent right now, but in 5 years we might find that like, hey, I can't even tell if that thing that I just saw was actually what I thought, So, and I don't know, I just feel like part of it's just a question that we're gonna have to like answer, and I think that it's not the best answer, it's not the complete answer, but I've got one. It's puppets. It's small. Yeah, Ann. Oh, I thank you. Mm-hmm. We did push back a little. I mean, from what they initially said, we basically were like, we can see a path to all of the structural and like physical requests that you have, but we pushed back on like the money that you're gonna need to pay us to do this is gonna need to be more, and then you're gonna need to be a little bit more open-minded about what the actual result is, because we don't have time to iterate and to test and to have you sort of like push back on us much. So I was basically like, we will say yes, provided you're willing to just sort of accept whatever product we're able to produce. We had like 2 months. So that meant 3 weeks for like designing and showing them something. And then another 3 weeks to like engineer, and then another like 3 weeks to build it. And so it was incredibly fast. Yeah. That would be first and foremost, absolutely. I would say, I need you to fly me and 4 of my teammates out to go like look at the space and see for ourselves like what's going to work in the space, and then talk to some of the people. I don't know for sure, but my hunch is that we were asked so late in the game because this art series was in the works for months and months prior, and all of the other like costume designers and builders were spooled up way before us. My hunch is that we were a second chance or a second choice, and that we were sort of a last minute like, can you guys do it? And we sort of were like, I think so, but it definitely to me felt a little bit like we were getting asked late, and they were willing to work with us with whatever we could do, and we did exactly. I mean, I'm pretty proud. I'm so proud of the team for producing the thing that they asked for. Thank you. For producing the thing that they asked for pretty darn close, and then also being frustrated that I didn't have the experience to catch that we could have given them more of what they wanted by just going out there and seeing the space and having a better, like, we can guide them. Yeah. Oh man, if I were willing to risk switching slideshows, but I'm not. They gave us a pretty cool, like, we build large creatures, right? And I always have felt like the animal kingdom is just like so packed full of inspiration. And you zoom in on like an orchid mantis, and it's cooler than any space alien I've ever seen. You know, screw Avatar, screw aliens, screw like the best things I've seen from Hollywood. An orchid mantis, when zoomed in, looks just like unbelievably weird and cool. It's like a really weird, cool insect that's evolved to mimic a really weird, cool flower. And I just love it. So there's no shortage of inspiration. And always it's like, look at the nature, look at the biomechanics, like what is the pivot point? What's the joint doing? And how do we mimic that with as little work as possible? How do we mimic that as simply as possible? So if it's a ball and socket joint, I don't need to over-engineer it. I can use a piece of bungee, a piece of elastic, and a nice tight fit is gonna mimic that ball and socket joint. If it's a hinge, like an elbow, I mean, like, a pin. A pin does that, and then a limit. So there's a ton of just look at the biomechanics and try to simplify it. And then we're dealing with tiny budgets. We're dealing with how can we do this as simply and cheaply as possible? How can we prototype it as quickly as possible? And using usually materials that we already have on hand. So yeah. Oh man, talk about rapid learning. Going through a wormhole like that, 2 months to kind of develop this whole thing. We learned so fast, and then we onboarded some really talented new puppeteers who had some awesome skills, and then so absolutely, I think Charlie is a significant step change above Morty. No offense, Morty, but in terms of certain types of just where's the sweet spot of effect and impact, and then ease of build, and then using the sort of I don't know, just the every puppet we build, we end up going, boy, that was way more work to make it than the impact that it delivered, right? And Charlie is in my mind one of the most efficient puppets we've ever made. We really, in terms of time and effort, but then also in terms of the cumulative effect, the dynamics and the movement and the interactivity, all are great. And so I think it just means that it's not that surprising, but getting your butt kicked and having to learn really fast, you get better. And I think our whole group got better as a result. We're gonna take 2 more. Okay, I love this question. So the first large-scale puppet that we made was the Colossal Squid, and it was at a time, I think that puppet was inspired by the fact that at the time in 2012, the Colossal Squid was this creature that we knew existed because we'd found corpses of these creatures that would wash up on shore or in the bellies of sperm whales. That was the 2 sources of a colossal squid. We were we know they're alive, we know they're down there, but we'd never seen one. And we made the colossal squid puppet, and later that year, the first footage of a colossal squid appeared on deep sea submersible video. The next year was our, sauropod dinosaur, and we were sitting there going this would be wild if we made this creature. Same thing, we know it existed. We knew it was a real animal, a giant, long-necked dinosaur. So I don't know. I think a bunch of what is so delightful about these creatures and these large puppets is that I'd never seen a colossal squid up close. Nobody had. But I want to know what it feels like to be around the thing. With Morty, the giant woolly mammoth, one of my favorite things to do, we made these silly foam spears, and we don't to actually poke Morty with spears because he's our kid, we made him. No, you don't stab him. But it is kind of funny to put a spear in the hand of a person and go all right, imagine trying to take out this guy with just this stone-tipped spear. So in terms of bringing him back, I don't know. I feel that's I've seen a lot of Jurassic Park movies, and I've seen a lot of the worst case scenarios, but also I'd kind of definitely want to see one if it kind of came around. So not super strong thoughts. I feel yeah, I'd be open to it. Oh, that's the best part, is getting puppets to meet each other and have play dates, There is Jilly FM is DJing the end of Hackfort, so I'm not truly the headliner. I think you'd say she is. She's the closing act. So if you all want to go, and I think is it 4:46 p.m.? The bar closes in 15 minutes. So if you would I've got 2 Hackfort drink passes that I intend to use before. So thank you guys. We can go dance over there and listen to Jilly FM. Thanks for coming to my Hackfort talk. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being so patient with my my sort of schlocky lack of preparation. But hey, have a great rest of your tree fort. Thank you.